Tucker Carlson's last unaired monologue on Fox.
Mr. Reagan.
So Chadwick Moore, great guy, has become relatively close, it seems, with Tucker Carlson. Chadwick is trusted enough by Tucker to be his official biographer, and he wrote a fantastic biography.
It's actually, I'm an independent biographer, so this is not an authorized biography. A lot of people have said that recently. They think I'm an authorized biographer and that I'm working with Tucker Carlson. I'm not. He has not read a word of the book. He has not asked to read a word of the book. He just simply trusted me, I guess. But I talked to Tucker and he was like, sure, I love your writing and why not? Let's do it. He gave me unprecedented access. I mean, more than I would expect actually from someone like him, especially when he has no editorial control. He doesn't know what I'm writing, but he welcomed me into his homes. I just really got to know him and see what he's like off camera. And for a writer, he is an incredible subject because he's so amusing and he's so colorful. He's just very confident. And I think that's one of the reasons why people hate him so much is they really can't stand people who exude that much confidence. He's very caring. He's very warm. He and his wife, Susie, they've been together since they were 15 years old. They met at boarding school in Rhode Island. They are so in love. And that was just such a wonderful thing to see. I've never seen a couple who's been together, especially for that long, that just exuded so much love. And that was super nice to see. If you leave it up to him what he wants to talk about, it's not going to be politics. There was one time that we were sitting in his kitchen one morning. He's sitting in his underwear and his shirt from the night before. Hair is all messed up. And we just started talking about trees, and he talked about trees for like an hour. And I thought it was just the most wonderful conversation. He's someone who loves the outdoors. He loves nature. He loves his family deeply. And those are the sort of things that he values. And he's also someone who, unlike most people on television and cable news especially, he's extremely humble. He's very cognizant of the fact that that position can turn you into a jerk, to put it lightly. He's always reminding himself of just how he's not in control, how he's not God, how he's just as weak and feeble as everyone else, and he's just a person. That really shows when you meet him and when you get to know him. And Tucker's someone that you definitely want to spend a lot of time with, which I think makes him unique. People on the left even say, even if they absolutely hate what he stands for and they really don't believe any of it, they all, when they meet him, think he's a really good guy.
So Chadwick also has a Substack. So go ahead and subscribe to that if you want to read brilliant commentary. And on this Substack, he has published Tucker's final news monologue. Now, this monologue was written in order to frame an interview that Tucker had done with Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, essentially to introduce evidence that January 6th was a psyop. Now, Fox never aired that interview. They never even shot this monologue that Chadwick has just now made available. Tucker sent in the script into the studio, and he prepared to go in to shoot the show that day, and then he gets this text, "You're fired, GTFO." And Tucker's like, what? I may be paraphrasing here, but the point is they unceremoniously canceled the show and axed Tucker. But we all know how that's turned out for Tucker. He's probably more popular now on X than he ever was on Fox. So real good move, Fox. Way to kill your own network. I basically only watch Fox Business these days. I watch Maria Bartiromo. I watch Kudlow. I don't even watch Gutfeld anymore. But anyway, I thought that it would be a bit of fun to just read to you guys Tucker's last monologue on Fox News. I think the world deserves to hear it. And that in one moment. First, of course, I have to sell you something. Are you prepared for what's coming? Remember how difficult it was to get proper medical care during COVID? Sick people were left to fend for themselves, unable to receive the help they needed. Now, with another election coming upon us, the deep state knows that justice is coming. And as we've seen, the powers that be are acting like cornered animals. And they will be at their most dangerous as the election nears. We need to prepare our minds, our hearts, and also our bodies. I would like to introduce you to Zeolite Extra Spray from Epic Minerals, your ultimate defense against heavy metals and other toxins that compromise your health. This powerful formula detoxifies your body, eliminating heavy metals and other poisons. If there is an impending crisis, the ability to cleanse your system to maintain a healthy body could mean the difference between life and death. Don't wait until it's too late. Arm yourself with Zeolite Extra Spray and ensure you are prepared for whatever the deep state throws your way. Stay vigilant, stay healthy. Epic Minerals, your defense against a toxic world. Go to www.epicminerals.net, promo code Reagan to save 10% off of your order. All right, so this is Tucker's last monologue for Fox News ever written, but never aired. Sandy Cortez just did an interview with Jen Psaki in which she demands that authorities pull our show off the air.
I believe that when it comes to broadcast television, like Fox News, these are subject to federal law, federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with.
Members of Congress aren't allowed to talk like this. The Constitution of the United States prohibits it. American citizens have an inalienable right to critique and criticize their political leaders. Our politicians are not gods. They're instruments of the public's will. They serve the rest of us, not the other way around. For that obvious reason, politicians can never censor our speech or try to control what we think. That unchanging fact is the basis of our founding documents, of our political system, and of our personal freedoms. As a former government official who claims to now be a journalist, Jen Psaki should know this, and she should defend America's fundamental principle. She refuses. Instead, Psaki nods along like a fan as Sandy Cortez calls for law enforcement to shut down news programming. The White House Correspondents Association and various other self-described advocates of press freedom stay silent too. Apparently, they agree with Ocasio-Cortez, or they're too afraid to say otherwise. It's distressing to watch this. The last thing America needs is more public figures saying radical things. What if we came on the air 5 nights a week and we called for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to be handcuffed and carted away because we don't like her political views? Well, we could certainly do that. We never would, because it would be terrible for our country. Extremism is self-perpetuating. The more you encourage, the more you get exponentially. We don't want that. We want to live in the United States that we had a few years ago, where people who disagree with one another are willing to debate directly using facts and reason and didn't call for their opponents' imprisonment. We will do whatever we can to return to that standard, including giving Sandy Cortez airtime. She's welcome on this show anytime. We'll travel to meet her anywhere. We will give her the full hour. We'll be civil and rational, and we'll let those watching decide who's got the more appealing vision for America's future. We've asked her to come on the show many times, and we will continue to do that. But in the meantime, because the words of our leaders matter, let's consider the substance of what Sandy Cortez is saying. She's demanding that our show be canceled because the things that we're saying are, quote, very clearly an incitement to violence. Is this true? Even accounting for the fact that people hear what they want to hear, it's not true. It's a lie. As anyone who watches this show knows, we are opposed to violence, not just philosophically, but in practical terms. We are against violent crime, the strong oppressing the weak. We are against the horrors of late-term abortion and state-encouraged euthanasia. And above all, we are passionately opposed to the violent and pointless cruelty of the war in Ukraine, which the Biden administration could end at any moment, thus saving the lives of innocents, but is instead prolonging it purely for ideological reasons. Those are the things that we dislike the most, the acts of violence that our leaders endorse. Ocasio-Cortez is one of those leaders. She supports every one of those indefensible things, from abortion in the 9th month of pregnancy to extending the carnage in Ukraine. Who, honestly, is on the side of violence? And where, we wonder, is Ocasio-Cortez on the question of Ray Epps? January 6th was a violent insurrection, they tell us. And on the basis of that claim, they've turned the war on terror against America's own citizens. We believe that is a false characterization, as we've said many times. January 6th was not an insurrection, which is why no one has been charged for that crime. No guns were brought into the Capitol. No plans to overthrow the government have ever been found. It was not an insurrection. But there was violence. A Capitol police officer called Michael Byrd executed Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed protester, and he was praised for doing it by politicians in both parties. Outside the building, a riot broke out. Windows were smashed. Cops were assaulted. We were offended by this on the day it happened, and we said so. We still are. We're against violence, whether it's in Chicago, Ferguson, downtown Kenosha, or the West Steps of the Capitol building in Washington. The main question from January 6th is, how did the violence start? Nearly 2.5 years later, we still can't say with certainty. But there are clues in the contemporaneous videotape. The night before the riot, for example, a man called Ray Epps was caught on camera encouraging protesters to breach the Capitol. The next day, as the violence began, Epps was filmed again doing the same thing. Was this legal? We can't say. We do know that any fair person would define what Ray Epps said to the crowd on January 6th as inciting violence. Epps encouraged those around him to break through a cordon of armed police officers and to breach a federal building. What Epps told the crowd to do would not only lead to physical conflict, but by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's standard, Ray Epps should be punished for inciting violence. But Epps has not been punished. Unlike more than 1,000 other Americans who were not caught on camera encouraging crimes, Ray Epps has never even been arrested. In fact, he's been rewarded generously by the left. Epps is currently being defended with great ferocity by neoliberal Democrats. His lawyer is a liberal activist who once worked for the Democrat Party, as well as its primary law firm, Perkins Coie. He now works with Hillary Clinton confidant David Brock. Epps was even defended by the January 6th committee, despite the fact that he's the only person that we've seen on video encouraging a breach of the Capitol. Last night, Epps appeared on the Democrat Party's biggest television show, 60 Minutes on CBS, to attack this show for asking questions about who he is and why he's never been arrested for what he did on January 6th. As we've so often done with his new ally, Ocasio-Cortez, we've asked Ray Epps on this show many times. We'll continue to do that. All right, so then Tucker would have transitioned to a clip from a pre-recorded interview. And that's it. That was his last monologue, the final monologue on Fox that nobody ever got to see. I don't know why I thought it would be fun to read that to you guys. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I'll probably get poor views and bad comments, but I thought it was a bit of fun. Anyway, thank you, Chadwick Moore, for posting this. I feel like I finally have closure after the death of the best show on Fox News, maybe ever. Look, subscribe to Chadwick's Substack if you like reading brilliant things, and buy the fantastic Tucker Carlson biography if you're so inclined. And remember, it's not that liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much. That is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.